Apple hasn't really done anything with the redesign of the iPhone, and I'm sure you agree with me when I say before the release of the iPhone 15 with the action button and the titanium frames, you could hardly ever tell if someone was using the latest iPhone because every single one just looked the same, very indistinguishable from the rest. It's been 7 years since the iPhone got a major redesign. And I say the iPhone specifically because every other Apple product like the Mac and iPad have gone through some sort of change, except the Apple Watch, of course, which seems like that has also just gone through a series of little incremental upgrades over the last 10 years. But let's pause for a minute and relive a time when Apple released the phone that would set the path for the next decade.
Future of the smartphone. This is iPhone 10. It is the biggest leap forward since the original iPhone.
And it is all screen.
Watching that still gives me goosebumps, but that was definitely one of Apple's best keynotes for me. And I remember watching that back in high school and thinking, what could Apple possibly do? And to be fair, I wasn't right or wrong to think that, because I get that this redesign came as a result of Apple celebrating its 10th anniversary. So they switched from an LCD display to an OLED display, removed the home button with the fingerprint sensor, and introduced Face ID. And also we got the notch. Each of this was a significant step forward, redefining what the iPhone could be. But then we go back to 2018, where Apple dropped the XR, goes back to an LCD display, made the phones more affordable, and featured a single rear camera setup. That same year, Apple also released the XS and the XX Max with much more improved performance, which anyone barely ever noticed. And a dual camera system with a wide angle and a telephoto lens. But unless you're an average consumer looking to buy a phone because of the brand's loyalty, you probably don't know what any of these things mean. Oh, and lest I forget, a bigger screen. But we'll move to 2019, where things start to get a little bit technical with the introduction of the Pro phones. The 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max. We generally start to see Apple create this divide between affordable and flagship. We got 6 new colors on the 11: black, green, yellow, purple, red, white. Same body from the X, XR, and XS. Same LCD display, same size, same weight. You get the point. But noticeably, the one new thing that got a redesign were the cameras. 2 cameras, a wide angle and an ultra wide 12 megapixel camera. No telephoto, that was only on the Pro phones. Featured a stunning matte finish, one of the best polished design Apple has ever done, and introduced an intriguing new color with the midnight green, a very bold color. But if you were still holding on to the iPhone X and considering an upgrade at the time, going for the 11 or the 11 Pro, depending on your budget of course, would have been a very reasonable choice. 2020, a year to forget considering everything that happened. Not for Apple, of course, with the introduction of the SE, 12 mini, 12, and the 12 Pro. 4 distinct models in one lineup. Just when you think Apple is on a thrilling ride of innovation, they loop you back into something familiar with the SE, reminding everyone that past can still be part of the future. Nice one, Apple. With a $400 price tag, you could say the SE was unbelievably one of the best-selling iPhones in 2020, yet the idea of cramming new internals into the iPhone 8's body was kind of confusing. I guess we'll never fully understand Apple's thought process behind that, but somehow it works. 2021, we got a smaller notch for the 13s and 120Hz display on the Pro phones. 2022, another SE version, this time 3rd generation with 5G and a new A15 Bionic chip. Larger display with 14 Plus and the new dynamic island with Apple's very own version of always on display. 2023, base model 15 and 15 Plus gets a dynamic island and Type-C after so many years with all the new titanium frame finishes. 2024, the camera control, which they refuse to call a button. I'm sure at this point you already get that it's been mostly little incremental changes since the release of the iPhone X, and unless Apple plans to stick with this 10-year anniversary thing, we most likely would have to wait another 3 years before we get something that sets the path for the next decade. Now, Apple would never force you to buy any of their products, but instead they give you a choice. No company would force you to get any product, or would they? Every year, Apple gives you 3 to 4 options. Either you get the budget-friendly mid-range option, which includes the non-Pro phones, or the high-end flagship models with the Pro lineup. So the choice ultimately still depends on what matters most to the consumer. So that is the person buying the phone, whether it's performance, camera, battery life, or something just as simple as a very different color. For every iPhone lineup, there's always something that nudges you to get the high-end model. And you've probably heard of this thing called the pricing ladder or Apple's pricing policy, where they offer you something slightly better just so you can get the next one. Here's what I mean. Say you have $1,000 and you don't want to spend all of it on just getting a phone. You might consider getting the iPhone SE, third generation, today at $429. But it's 2025. Why would you want to use a phone that looks like something from 2017? You might think, well, might I just go for the 14 Plus at $699? Then you wonder about the 13 Pro, but the 14 Pro and 15 looks good with the dynamic island, same at $699. And at that point, the 15 Pro is just $799, which is also the same price as the 16. So why not just get the 16? I mean, it's the newest model. For an average consumer, you're always in this endless loop whenever you want to pick up an iPhone, but Apple is smart. By making the prices seem relatively fair, they cut prices of the old iPhones slightly from time to time. But here's the catch. Thanks to the time value of money, where the value of money today is what more than what it will be tomorrow, when Apple keeps the same price from last year's phones, technically it remains unchanged, but in reality, you're paying more for a phone with very little upgrade. Of course, there are other factors that come into play, but in this part of the world where prices fluctuate and the currency is as unstable as a shipwreck that's adrift at sea, getting a new phone technically would mean breaking the bank and you having to spend more than you originally planned. And so yes, you have a choice. Apple is definitely not trying to force you to get the new iPhone every single year. It's only January and we've already started to see leaks of the next iPhone that comes out in September. It looks like a slight corpse if you ask me, but leaks are just leaks until Apple finally gets to release the phones officially. One more thing, if Apple doesn't give us a redesign for the next iPhone that comes out in 2027, or this is the iPhone we would get for this year as a redesign, then I would shave my head. Yeah, until then, Apple, try not to sell us yesterday's phones for tomorrow's prices. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.